All right, guys, 3x to the Lex, right back at you with one more video. Okay, I'm here today to talk to you about the criticisms and issues and things generally I don't like about the Arcade Gas 43-inch Retro Plus. Now, I think this is an amazing cabinet. I think it's the best cabinet out per dollar value wise, the cabinet to get if you're in the market, but there's still a few things that I don't like about the cabinet. So I really want to go over that today and and go into a little bit more detail as to what those issues are, so to make you aware of them at least. So number one of the main things that stands out to me is the marquee itself needs to be about maybe an inch shorter, I would say. One of the main concerns is if you're playing this as a stand-up arcade, the actual speakers here and even the light bar sensor, especially the speakers, kind of block the top view of the screen ever so slightly. It's not really a big deal, but if you're playing this as a stand-up cab and you're looking at the very tippy top of the screen, this gets in the way ever so slightly. It maybe hangs over the border of the top of the screen, maybe less than half an inch, but nevertheless is noticeable. So if I was designing this, I would probably take a good solid inch off of the marquee, at least maybe an inch and at least maybe a half of inch. So this can be raised a bit, and that would stop this will stop the speakers from blocking the top half of inch of screen on both sides when you're playing this as a stand-up cab. Now, when you're playing this as a sit-down cab, as probably most people will, and I know I do, it's not an issue. Because when you're sitting down and you're looking at the screen, it's not being blocked. Because you're looking up at the screen to a degree, and it's not being blocked. So it's not an issue. So when you're playing it as a sit-down cab, when you're standing up, it becomes, you just notice it a little bit. You know, it's not really a deal breaker. It's not a big thing. You just notice it. The second thing I would say is the light bar sensor is in a good position. I don't have a criticism of that. But the speakers themselves, I don't know if this just happened with my model or not, but they're not completely centered as the way they should. This one's in a good spot, but this one is not the same distance from here to here. This one's over to the left a little bit too much, maybe by an inch or so. So those both need to be in the same space on each side. This one's probably a half, maybe an inch off, maybe an inch and a half, maybe an inch off. Not a big deal. I mean, you barely notice it, but when you're looking at the fit and finish of the cab, that kind of stands out a little bit. So that's something else I would change. Also, the Boss speakers. I mean, as video game speakers, they sound fine. They don't have a lot of bass, but I mean, they do sound better, considerably better, connected to the amp, considerably better than pretty much any speakers that are coming with these thin LED panel TVs that are being sold today. Those speakers are lacking for almost all the sets. So they'll upgrade over those. But if I was the arcade guys, I would raise the price a tiny bit on this cab and go for a higher quality speaker. Like I would go for something like Focal, at least Pioneer. You know, I'm an audiophile though. I will probably invest in a batch of Focal or, Sonus Faber or something of that ilk. And I would invest in something like that. You know, a higher end speaker is what I would invest in. One that had good bass performance, and because this can also be used as a jukebox, but the speakers for music, I mean, they sound fine, but they're not exactly the best in the world. They don't have like phenomenal bass response. I mean, they're fairly clear for video games. They sound great for video games, but like when you get off into music or trying to watch movies or something on here, they're kind of lacking. So for me, that would be another concern. I will go with a better quality speaker. Also, if I was the arcade guys. Also, I would look into possibly getting a bezel, because this is pretty much just a raw television recessed in here, and it's fine. This screen doesn't have an issue with glare or motion blur or anything, but an actual bezel would give this a more, it will give the arcade a more complete look, you know, and, you know, it will give it a more authentic look. You know, just putting a bezel over the screen will give it a more authentic look. It'd be nothing wrong with that. That would be fine in my opinion. I would really like that. It's not a deal breaker though. I mean, it looks fine as it is. The trackball is good. The trackball is fine. The bolts that hold the trackball in are like, or how can I put this? They're like a stainless steel bolt. If I were them, I would either paint these bolts black, or you know, or see if they could just get black bolts, period, or white bolts, or depending on whatever color your control panel is, because they kind of stand out, and it looks a little out of the ordinary, and it takes a little bit away from the control panel, in my opinion. Also, like the buttons and sticks, they're pretty good. Now that I've gotten used to them and they've broken in a little bit better, the sticks are fine. The buttons aren't bad so far. They held up pretty good. We'll see. I'm only probably a good month and a half into the ownership of this cab, so so far I haven't had any issues with any of the buttons or sticks. But, you know, honestly, if a deal could be worked out with, there's a lot of different manufacturers, stick buttons and sticks wise. If they could work out a deal with a higher end manufacturer of buttons and sticks, that would be great, you know, and they could just go with like Hap. Hap would be an outstanding brand to go with, buttons and sticks. Like if they worked out a deal with Hap or Sanwa, that'd be great. Like me personally, like I'm a Hap guy. Like just Hap sticks and buttons on all their machines would be great. They could probably raise the price on this cab $150 and go with much better quality sticks and all Hap controls top to bottom. And like they already use a Hap trackball, and that would improve this cab tenfold. You know, I mean, it's great as it is, but that would be a big upgrade to this cab. And you know, a Hap button and control kit is like $110. You probably could get quality speakers for this, especially if you're buying in bulk, for probably $60 a pair or so. $150, $160. You raise the price on this cab, and it'd be top notch. Now, those are mods you could do yourself, but just speaking on it from a manufacturer's perspective, you know, me being in the game personally myself, being an engineer by trade, that really kind of stands out to me. And, you know, those are like things that could be done. Also, again, I want to state the buttons or sticks are fine. They even work fairly well for fighting games, but if you are a fighting game fanatic and you're really serious about fighting games, if you order this cab, make sure you work out a deal with them to do Sanwa or Hap sticks or controls. So when I'm gonna be getting more cabs eventually. I got rid of all of my arcade 1-ups and 3/4 scale cabs. So I'll be getting more cabs eventually. I got a 1,000 square foot game room. Have to give you guys a game room tour soon. So I'll be getting more cabs soon anyway. But another thing I would like to say about this is the software. It needs to be probably play tested a little bit more than it has been, as quite a few things throughout the nearly 20,000 games doesn't work. Just a little bit of play testing, and checking, the games, etc., would let them know what didn't work and what games are not working and what games aren't working well enough to include. Some of the stuff on here needs to be removed as it doesn't work at all. It would not hurt them to like go through. I've been offering up my opinions, and I've had talks with them, and they've been responsive, and changes have been made. So things are going in the right direction for this cab, and I like that software wise. So there has been changes, and I like that. It's been upgrades, and games has been great. But there's still quite a few titles that need to be removed, as they're not working, or they're working really, really poor. And they shouldn't be on here if it's not working. That's just my opinion. When you put out something, you want to make sure it's working at least decently well and it's playable. Otherwise, you might want to, I would suggest removing it. Like, that's, if I was building my software, I would not have something on there that's not working correctly. That's just my opinion. So that would be like my last criticism would be the software. Other than that, I don't have too many other criticism of the cab. Other than that, man, this cabinet is bananas, man. Like, what works on here, which is most of the content, works great. All 4 of the controls work great. Everything is just like everything. The menu system smooth. Entering and exiting the system is smooth. One thing I've noticed running Hyperspin versus like running the games here on this Pi 4 with RetroPie is that the access times and the starting and quitting of menus and accessing games as a whole is a lot faster on this Pi. I mean, SD versus hard drive, I could make a whole nother video breaking that game down. But the reality is SD is the future, and that's what people are going to have to realize. Small board computers like the Pi 4 running SD cards, rewritable SD cards, is the future. And, 5 to 10 years from now, I would say, 3 to 6 years from now, I mean, that's going to really be what the future of this home arcade scene is going to be. We're going to probably have a small board computer powerful enough to run pretty much everything out with like a 16 or 32 gig 32 terabyte SD card. The access times and speeds are a lot faster than hard drive. And that's why the boot up times, etc. for these games are like a lot faster. I know just running this stuff from Hyperspin. Hyperspin has its own issues. I'm gonna make another video getting off into the Pi 4 versus PC for retro games. That's a whole nother video, and I really don't want to get into all that right now. But there's certainly advantages to Pi or small board computers for retro gaming, and that's for sure. So anyway, that's primarily my criticisms of this cabinet. So, that's going to be it for now. So that's it for now. All right, guys, I got to get out of here. 3x to the Lex. I'm going to see you on the next one. Till next time, peace.